Stampscapes live. If you're watching this on replay or however you're watching it, thanks for joining in. Now this is going to be hopefully a real quick experiment here. I've been doing these Brayer experiments here. I mean, I've used the Brayer before a lot in the past, just to make some quick cards. I haven't really been using it though with separate inks. I used to use it a lot with big and juicy rainbow pads where, you know, the pads, I don't even know if I have one anymore, but they're really large pads by Ranger. Industry's the same, you know, maker of, all the Tim Holtz types of inks. And you used to be able to get really a nice brayered, transitioning colored background for some really fast scenes. But I've been playing around with the Brayer again, just using my own color choices. And it makes for a pretty quick card. And, there's something to be said for that. We don't always have time to do, kind of individual kind of isolated, types of typical coloring, and going for like a really saturated background. So this is a way to kind of get a custom-made background using whatever color choices you want to create whatever kind of color scheme you're going after. And you can do it just like I'm doing right here, but the fun thing about the Brayers and the Brayering process is to kind of get a transitioned background of different colors. In graphic arts class in high school, we used to call it split fountains. Hello, Linda. So anyway, I'm going to go for this bluish green. I want to go for largely a bluish toned scene. So the one that I did last night was this one right here. And I really like these transitioning colors right here. You can see where it's kind of dulled out a little bit, but I'll spray seal that and that'll bring back the vibrancy. But I wanted to check out specifically this alto cumulus cloud and to see if I can get a reverse impression by stamping it in with just water on the stamp back into a damp field of ink. So I think I've done that before, but I couldn't remember, so I wanted to try it here because I thought this is the perfect place to do it because of the amount of ink that's applied with this brayering technique right here. Okay, so these are all dye-based inks that I'm using on glossy cardstock here. So, all right, so here comes the blue. I'm skipping some of the lightest colors just because I want this to be really fast, or we'll try to make it fast here. So going with the Brayer, just remember to change the rotation so you don't get those just, those lines where it's rotated once or, something like that on there. And those will come out too. You just have to keep layering down a lot of ink on here. This is my Bahama blue. And I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to transition it a little bit from bottom to top and top to bottom. Okay, now one of the things that I did that I thought worked pretty good was I went cross grain as well. I don't know if that's the term, but just to kind of even those out a little bit more and to get a bigger slathering of tone down. Like so. And I'll do that. I can do that for a couple of the inks just to get things a little bit more kind of layered and saturated too. Even just these two colors right here are pretty fun. And what we're doing is, if you're working with a couple different hues like blue and green, you're doing this thing called well, I don't know if it's called that, but what it does is it creates a color glow. It's when you bring two colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel next to each other, it creates a color glow. Opposite colors create a color vibration when they're, right next to each other. Now, we're not really doing that. We're layering them right on top of one another, but see that blue in there glows a little bit more than if you were just going with, one hue of, just all blues or something like that. Okay. I don't know, I think my paper has a little bit of a, unless it's my paper right here, I'm getting those things kind of coming out a little bit more. They're becoming more distinct as opposed to kind of blending in. But we are going to get this a lot darker. Hello, Candy, Jen, Verna, Melanie. Good to see you. Thanks for hopping in, Melanie. Glad you're able to catch this for your first live here. Hopefully I don't put you to sleep, on your first live. But yeah, thanks for checking it out. If anyone else is watching, thanks for joining in here. Okay, so here's the idea. I'm going to use some of my desert imagery on this one. Okay. By the way, that's just a 1-inch hole punch out of a Post-it note. So that's going to be my moon. So it will be, white amongst, this darker background. So hopefully it creates kind of a dramatic backdrop and light source for my scenery down below here. Okay, so that is the Bahama blue. All right. Doesn't have to be this brand of inks here either. You can just use any type of dye-based inks. Danube blue. So I'm going through a range right here, kind of from light to dark, okay? Now, if you want to, skip some of these colors, you can. In terms of the thing that I'm going after, I'm really trying to create a big slathering of this built-up ink on here. And again, I'm not sure why I'm getting these lines in here. I think on my paper yesterday, too, I was getting that, too. But I was able to kind of eradicate most of that. You can't really see the lines in here. And I'll be layering on a lot of different layers of textures on here too. This something like this would be good for this color scheme. Like if you're doing a like an underwater scene or something like that too. Anytime you do those kind of aqua colors like that. All right, now this one right here is going on pretty strong right here. My bottom color right in here might be drying on me a little bit. Let me see something right here. I'm going to make this a little bit easier. I'm going to add in, if you have some re-inker fluid inks of whatever color scheme you're working with too, you can add those in, and it makes the surface a little bit more saturated for these other colors that you're adding on here, okay? So that's moistening the entire page. If you're out in, Phoenix or something like that, it'd be a good idea to do that. Southwest, wherever, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah. See, like that, it just kind of blends in so much easier. Because these inks are kind of floating on there a little bit more, and dye-based inks work by staining. Okay, so they have to penetrate the pulp of the paper a little bit, or the surface and pulp, even though this is a glossy cardstock gloss, the gloss is porous enough to accept inks. That's how they do offset printing for everything, movie posters, book covers, etc. But the more ink you have floating for this type of purpose right here, while in the time that you're working on it, it just it blends a little bit easier for you, for us. One of the things with the Brayer too, see, I'm already kind of forgetting this, is that you use a little bit of a lighter pressure with that first stroke, and then just, you have to use like a hard pressure on it, but a little bit lighter when you first ink up your Brayer right here, okay? All right, let's see. I'm trying to make an assessment here. I want this to go fairly dark. I still want to go into a couple, well, maybe one other tone of blue and then black, okay? So if we're having this transitioning value scale from light, medium, dark right here, you have to leave room for those darker colors to come. So see down here, I should probably go down here a little bit more just to leave room for 2 extra tones up there, or 2 extra values, and one of them is going to be fairly dark with that black. So let's go down here a little bit more. You can always go back and add more of a, certain color if you want to. Here I've already gone, to a color that's quite a bit darker than one that I want to use on here too. So let me go backwards a little bit. I forgot about this Caribbean blue. This Caribbean blue is a really bright blue. So I'm not putting Jeannie to sleep yet. Just give me a couple minutes, Jeannie. We'll get you there. And Jeannie's on Pacific Standard Time too, so that's pretty good. If we can put people comatose. People don't have to take, if they have to take sleeping pills or something like that sometimes. If they watch these videos, it's the all-natural remedy for insomnia. Hello, Laura. You dyed one of your rollers black because it was such hard color to clean. Oh, that's interesting. Linda commented she really likes using the Brayer, but yeah, just haven't been. I like using the Brayer too, but I haven't. It's been a long time since I've used the Brayer. I did a whole series pre YouTube channel and online videos and stuff like that, but there's this whole I wouldn't call it a series. There's probably 5 of them or something like that called, was it Stampscapes or Quick Scenes or something like that on the lesson section of the website. And I don't know, like 2 or 3 of them were just using the Brayer. So one time when I posted that, this is probably like 20 years ago, someone, they were trying to figure out what to do for their Christmas cards. One of my customers, and then she wrote, "Hey Kevin, I saw those quick scenes, and with the Brayer." She had taken my class to adding in colors, individually, and it takes a while. But the quickscapes things, with the Brayer, and at that time the big and juicy rainbow ad, really kind of solved that season's Christmas card, whatever question, dilemma, whatever it was, All right, this is a Prussian blue, like super blue right here. Oh, so here's the situation here. A lot of times I don't get the pads these days for certain colors that I'm not really going to be using to make impressions from. And that Distress Ink blueprint sketch right here would be cool to Brayer on here. I'll try the blueprint sketch. I'll just add it manually with the the paper towel though, because that's a really cool, really super dark, rich blue. I don't know what's darker, the Prussian blue Marvy or the blueprint sketch Distress Ink. And do I do it now or do I do it after black? I think I better do it after black. It's probably lighter than black, but if I'm going to be doing like a streak like this with the blueprint sketch, I think if I add that blueprint sketch in and just add it manually like that, it's going to be adding so much ink here that's going to be hard to apply my black into it because it's just going to be almost super saturated on here. So anyway, so let's go ahead and add the black in. Marvy Black's pretty. Someone was asking me about the the was that you, Candy? With the with that substitute ink, or who? See, that Marvy Black really penetrates that. See that transition up there? If it's a thicker ink, it's not going to be as easy to apply in this wet incarnation of inks that are already down there. Okay, but that being said, if you're having a hard time applying like the next tone of color, you've gone through like some really thick inks or something like that, just allow it to set up, you know, a couple minutes or something like that, and then go back in and start brayering again. You don't want to let it get too dry though, because you want it fairly moist so that things blend really nicely for you, okay? So just kind of, I don't know, experiment around, try it, you know, don't walk off like, you know, 10 minutes or something like that. Try it and just see how things are going. Okay, let's see right down here. I'm going to have all my imagery down here, so I'm not worried about like a super blended transition down here. Okay. Okay, let's go for a little bit more of a vignette now too. So I'm going to come in from the sides and try to make this perimeter a little bit darker, like this. Okay. I'm probably going like this. I'm not going, you know, I'm kind of lifting it like that. All right. Okay, let's go like that. If you have a glass mat or piece of acetate, you can drop some blueprint sketch on it and pick it up. I don't have that, Laura. That's for fancy people. No, yeah, that would be awesome. That's for advanced stampers, Laura, not me. But that's a good point there. Yeah. Just lay down your re-inker fluid. And yeah, the Brayer, you know, it's like, you know, using like a, you know, like a printing, you know, type of process. We used to do that in our printing class. We'd roll our ink down and, you know, ink up, you know, our typeset. It was just like metal text and type of things in my high school class. I mean, it was an antiquated art form, you know, already, you know, when I was in high school, but yeah. Or anything like that. I didn't take printmaking, but yeah, you roll out your ink so that it's nice and even, so that when you apply it on top of whatever you're going to make an impression from, it's, you know, even distribution of that. Okay, let's try the blueprint sketch. Now, I'm not sure if this, in my description, I said I'm going to try this ink bleaching or water bleaching type of thing. We'll see how that goes. I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but here comes the blueprint sketch. Like this, I'm going to leave it a little bit streaky, and here I'm trying to not go too much over that moon, just because it is a piece of paper. I don't want it like floppy. It looks pretty good though in terms of the richness of that color. That. Okay, now it's easier to apply than I thought here, just because this is like a super thick slathering of all these inks down here. This blueprint sketch though, like even when it gets on my fingers and everything like that, it stains it so much faster. So when I've applied this type of color on other scenes before, it really transfers quickly, and it's really dark. So, yeah. So if you use it, you know, just be aware of that. You know, all brands of inks and colors within those lines of inks are not, most of them are kind of the same, but a lot of them aren't in terms of the viscosity, okay? Some have like a different chemistry to them too, I've found. Like certain colors. Like in the Marvy line, that bubblegum pink for some reason, you know, it develops those little, you know, crusty little things on it sometimes if you have it sitting around for a long time. Okay, so this area up in the sky, it's pretty moist. I can see when I'm applying some of this blueprint sketch, I'm actually kind of digging into and separating some of that black in there. And I don't know if you can see that a little bit right there. So this is like really soaked up there. I still have those lines down there. It's a pain in the butt, but anyway. All right, let's see how this goes here. Let me see, how am I going to do this right here? I need that piece of glass or acetate like this for this one here. Oh, maybe I can do it like this. Here's a piece of the my acrylic block here. I might do something too. One of the things that we used to do too in the workshops, or not the workshops, but the make and takes at conventions was getting that transition background going with the Brayer and the rainbow pads. And that was okay, but just sometimes you wanted a little bit of extra texture in your scenes. So we just took, a spray ball, and you did that thing where you just spray it a little bit, and it, you get those drops of water on it, and you leave it for, whatever, 30 seconds or something like that. It starts to give that kind of bleached out, like, texturing on it. We just used water, though. We didn't do that bleach using, we didn't actually use bleach, but... All right, let's see how this goes here. Okay, this isn't a technique demonstration. It's an experiment. We'll see if it works or not. All right, is there... Maybe I took off too much water there. Let's see. Maybe it's one of those things. Maybe I should use some bleach in this. I'm not going to, but let's see here. Okay, this was puddling on me in some of that detail in there, so you have to kind of remove some of that. But I'm guessing that I probably need a pretty adequate amount. Do you see that amount on there? I mean, it should, well, I don't know. I think it should work, because I did a little bit of overspray, and I can see it kind of removing some of that, bleaching out. I don't know if you can see that there. It's removing some of it. Okay, I don't want it so much that's just going to drip on me, so. Let's see. All right, so I'm doing this bleaching thing. I need to get it across. Maybe I should use the larger one, the larger alto cumulus. Because see, if I do it right here and then I do it over here, maybe that transition zone. I know what to do with this one. If it's ink, then I'm applying in a positive, to get it to blend. But I'm not sure about this bleaching technique here. See, this will just reach across more of the sky, like, instantly. So in one impression, let me use the larger one. All right. I need to clean that off a little bit. There was I think there was green on that or something. With the small one, I can tell if there was kind of ink beaded up on here. With the larger one, I can't even tell if there's like water on some of that. It doesn't look like it's sticking to it like this one. Yeah, let's just give it a shot here. Okay. So let's go like that, and let's let some of that water, transfer over if there was water on it. It's like sometimes, when you ink up a stamp, you can't tell if it's inked up or not sometimes. That's the way this one was. Okay, it looks like I got a pretty decent impression of it right there. I can see it. Now, it's not going to be bleaching out like instantly. You got to let it set for a little bit. And it might not kind of bleach out enough of the ink, so it might be like super subtle, but I can see it coming around. So we'll see how that goes. It might be just better just to spray it, and get that kind of that spray kind of texturing, but I don't know if you see that kind of coming around up there, you know? All right, let's let that sit a little bit. And also, I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like. Sometimes if it bleached out a lot or something like that, I thought, okay, maybe what if I don't like some of it or the contrast that it creates, maybe I would come back into it, and then you add in some extra tones into those kind of bleached out impression marks. Let me see. Ken, do you have an interchangeable roller brayer? That's pretty interesting. Is it like the hard brayer and the like the softer rubber brayer type? All right, this is coming around. It's, you know, you can see it kind of revealing itself a little bit more. So it's a little, I don't know. I think it's a little bit more, oh, I don't know, what, like visually deep in some ways. Now, here's the other question that I had for myself too. It was like, okay, at what point do you do that kind of that reverse mark in there? Because I think you can do it before you add in maybe one of the colors or something like that, and then you brayer over that again so that there's, you know, some different tones of those in there. So this one, as it bleaches out, it might be kind of a uniform value for the most part, you know, the impression, where maybe you'd want it varied a little bit more. I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, so I think it's, yeah, it looks like up here, down here it's a little bit crisper. Now, some of that is that overspray, I think, because it's like little dots. Okay, but you can see it in here, and it's a little bit kind of soft, which looks okay because it just looks like, you know, atmospheric, whatever, clouds or something like that. But see up here, this area up here is darker where I bleached into the darker. And over here, I don't think, I could see it myself here, but it's barely, can you see that right in there? So I think that looks pretty cool. Now I'm wondering if I did that, if I should have done the moon. I don't know. Let's see, let's take that out like that. All right. And I don't know, maybe that moon is too stark now. Maybe I should tone it down a little bit. Let's see. Let's get a little bit of the, I'll go with my lightest tone right here. And let's get a little bit of color into that stark white moon, okay? All right, let's see here. I hesitated there because I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be going into that. Is that still my reverse impression moisture that's sitting on this page and it's slowly penetrating that? I was wondering if I was going to spread that around a little bit, but I think it's okay to go in here. All right, so that's just a little bit of that aqua. Looks like I need to go more. This might be a little bit too dark. Let's go back to kind of a lighter blue here. I'll use it right on that same spot as that re-inker fluid, so it's not too much darker. Okay. I do need to go darker now. There's just so much moisture on that little spot right there that I need to go to a darker tone. There we go. Let's go like that right there. All right. A little bit more texturing. Where did that circle go? Did I just... Where did my... I lost my moon. It's where I was sticking on the bottom of something. It's not this one. It would have been kind of blue. I need that... Post here, I'll just put this right over it like this. Okay, let's get a little bit more texturing into this right here. Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. splatter painted with an old cheap toothbrush without the gum stimulators on it. Which most toothbrushes have. I never realized how difficult it would be to find like just like a regular old toothbrush like that. But years ago, someone was saying, "Hey, I I was looking around for a toothbrush. I can't find one." I was like, "What?" And I started looking on places like Amazon. It's like, man, you can't find just some old, very plain toothbrushes very easily anymore. All right. So I just covered that up because I don't want some of those splatter painted stars like in that area. They may be standing out a little bit too much, but maybe I can tone them. You can tone in your stars too like that, just by applying some ink over the top of it. But look at that bleaching out. It's still bleaching out right there. I'm going to try that thing just because we're experimenting here. I'm going to add in some color over some of those. Yeah, okay. That works. Just to vary the value of that bleached out area a little bit, so we can get a little bit of transitioning within the texturing too. Yeah, I mean, you can do something too. I mean, you can do it in, we can do that bleached out type of impression on there. And then if you want to, it would have to be darker than that background color in there, but you can add in some darker versions of that too. So in this case, you'd have to use like a black in here. So you can have like reverse impression texturing like that. And you can also go positive texturing in there, with color. In this case, like I think it would have to be black for it to show up in here. So you can play around with that and be like a yin yang type of impression, type of whatever element. Oh, here's my moon right there. I should save this right here. Let me see. I'm gonna put it on my stays on right here for future moon needs. Okay, so let's add in. So a pretty dark background. You want, if you're going to stamp some imagery over the top of it, you want to go with something that's fairly, silhouette based. And, instead, as opposed to open, otherwise you're going to have all those different types of things showing right through the imagery. So, boy, that is really bleaching out around here. It's still going here. What's interesting to me is I kind of streaked on like some black or something like that, and there's a streak right in here that's not really bleaching out for some reason. I don't know, it's like a stronger impression of black, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. All right, we'll add a little bit of foreground down here, and then some trees. Yeah, should I do the trees first here? Let's go with the Joshua tree. I've been stamping out some of my cacti a little bit like crooked. I need to get used to them a little bit. It's like stamping like columns or something like that. Most of the things that I stamp out, it doesn't matter if it's like tilted a little bit left or right. But some of the smaller like saguaros, yeah, it's like a little bit crooked. Not so much this Joshua tree here, but a couple of the other ones that are, maybe a little bit more kind of, a vertical column type of element. I don't know, maybe it's just the saguaros here. Okay, so this is what I always mention when you're stamping into something that's a little bit damp, or just depending on what media surface combination you're doing. You might want it to stamp and hold for a little bit longer, just to allow that ink to start setting up a little bit, in this case transferring and absorbing into the surface of this kind of damp paper. So you're stamping it on glossy cardstock, which if we're doing it just directly onto a white piece of glossy cardstock, that transfer rate is like a lot faster than this now, which has like, I don't know, what it was like 4 or 5 different slatherings of ink that have been applied to it. Not to mention the water bleaching like that. It kind of puckers the page a little bit too when you do that. And then it does flatten out again, when it dries, but it does kind of pucker a little bit. So when you're doing it over the like this, those types of bleached areas like that, it is raised a little bit. So keep that in mind. All right, so a tree like that. That looks pretty dimensional. Let's see. Composing here. I was going to put this one over here, but let's see. Let me go for the smaller one. All right, this one I've made, it has a little bit of gesture to it, so it does lean a little bit. You can use, now this glossy cardstock, if you want to use like a VersaFine Clair, I don't know about every brand of glossy cardstock, but you can use like an oil-based, from what I've found, black on here. These might be kind of interesting if you did like a VersaFine Clair or something like that, and then detailed black embossing powder or clear embossing powder and have these trees actually like raised from the surface. That would be kind of interesting. Because, we're kind of going for this illusion of depth within the scene. So if you're working with something that's actually kind of raised out, sometimes like that, I don't know, sometimes it can push depth. The one thing that, like with these trees right here, I think it'd be fine with the cards embossing on here. But sometimes I don't like using embossing powders when there's a lot of like tight detail, even when using like detailed embossing powder. Sometimes it looks a little bit, it can fill in the details, but unlike something like this, it wouldn't really matter. Okay, let's see. That looks kind of interesting, just kind of offset like that. Go with the small one again. I like this kind of sloping kind of element working in here. And going off into the distance. All right, here's a smaller one right here. There's no right or wrong here when you're doing these types of things. It's just like, whatever your preference is. What I'm thinking, okay, so the thing that's coming in mind right here, we have all this kind of background in here. So I want to have these types of things that are going to kind of enhance the background, even though you are covering it up, having that texture, something that's lighter against that texture like that. It can kind of, sometimes it makes that, it's kind of a softer texture against something crisp, so it makes it look even softer and lighter by having something darker and crisper right next to it. So you can play things like that. Let's go with just these tops of these rocks right here. I'm spending a little bit more time with these elements. Usually I just kind of just stamp them right in there, but I really like the look of this, so I wanted to come out like, you know, like just right, you know, for this composition. Like I said, there's no right or wrong, but it's like I'm thinking, okay, what could look, you know, really cool here? Okay, this is just some rocks. I'm just using just a little bit of a portion of them right there. It's like a 20% of the top of it. Something like that. Okay. And then I'm just going to put, you know, another one out there in the distance. It reminds me of going to Joshua Tree National Park and kind of, you know, playing around on the rocks out there. Scrambling, we called it, or call it. Okay, let's see. My light keeps stopping. Uh-oh. Is anyone else having that type of problem? Costco sells a bunch of toothbrushes. Are they... When I think of Costco, though, Jeannie, are they just like the plain ones without the stimulators? It seems like a Costco would have the ones, like the latest ones with like a really good gum stimulator on it. Yeah, Costco doesn't carry like a lot of, you know, whatever it is, but you know, it's usually like one type that would be really super popular, but you know, you got to buy like a case of like, you know, whatever, probably a dozen of them or something like that. Okay, I was gonna say I was masking that off, man. Like that here. There we go. Something like that right there. Scenic Stamping Retreat, Joshua Tree 2024. Be there or be square. Okay, let's do one more thing here. I really like this piece. I wasn't going to do this, but let's just add a little bit of texture to a couple of these stars. Just because there's, I'm looking for a Q-tip here. Let me see if I have 3 more here. I think I have some more somewhere in the house, but see that keeps bleaching in right in there, like that. It's still going, I think. I gotta think it's stopped by now, though. Okay, so white pigment ink. Some of my stars are a little bit kind of harsh. They're really, really light like that. Okay, so let me see. Let me go over them, or a couple of them at least. Just that they're too uniform on here. Okay, so I'm just going to tone some of them in a little bit. And you can get variation just by, instead of doing splatter painting with the white, you know, Dr. Martens, you can just do these different stars in different colors with, you know, your acrylic paint pens like those. You like use a white one and then use a blue one, or, you know, whatever color scheme you're working in like that. But one thing that's nice about the Dr. Martens is that the spray pattern tends to be a little bit more kind of random, varied, you know. It looks a little bit more natural sometimes in terms of like a star pattern. Okay, see that? Oh, I've knocked those down. All right, but let's bring out like 1 or 2, and you wouldn't be able to see like all these stars like this, you know, in a full moon night. But who cares? It looks cool in our scenes. Okay, so adding in like a specific little dot in there, and then I'll add in a little bit of soft texturing to make a couple of them glow, just so it's, you know, some of the stars are a little bit of a different texture than the other ones. And I don't do too many of these ones usually, unless they're supposed to represent, like, I'm talking about for stars. If I'm doing like glowing orbs, then I do, you know, a ton of them. Okay, so you want to make your cotton ball swab a little bit looser on the tip, so I kind of fray it a little bit, or I loosen up the that wound, you know, texture like that. Because if you want a soft application of something, you have to do it with a soft applicator, right? Or at least that makes it easier. And we want to go kind of dry with that too. And then just with a kind of a lighter touch, you know, you just kind of gently dab that on there where you can't really see anything done or happening to it until you do it, like, I don't know, 15 times or something like that. Do you see that little glow there? Well, I don't know. There's like 3 of them there. Can you see those little glowing little stars? I don't know. Really, it can make a, you know, pretty big difference there. Where's Laura? All right, Laura. Here's your test. What constellation is that? I'm just joking. It isn't any constellation. Laura's a, you know, astronomer. All right. So anyway, bird background, bleached out look in there. I don't know. I might have to do that technique once in a while. I think that looks pretty cool. So here's the, you know, the positive impression of alto cumulus in here. It's just stamped out in color. Now this is a smaller one too. Maybe it's interesting. You can go with the small, you know, in the lighter area, you can stamp out a positive impression, but then, you know, it might be interesting to have some of those reverse impressions, like in the darker area. You can play around with that, you know, something like that. But I don't know. I think that worked out okay. I don't know. I'm trying to think, you know, would have been better without it. Now that I'm looking at it, it's hard to imagine it without it, though, because I think it looks pretty decent. I don't want this to get like super light, though. Like I guess you can suspend it too. You know, if it starts bleaching out in the background, when it gets to the the value, if it keeps getting lighter and lighter, you know, when it gets to the value you want, you can kind of heat set it. You know, I don't think you'd have to dry it off completely, but just, you know, get a little bit of heat going on there, and then it'll stop the process. Or if it ever goes too light, and like I said, you can add more tone into it just by, you know, taking some additional tone and just going right over it. Or you can even hit it with, you know, different alcohol inks or something like that, and just tint, you know, some of those tones in there a little bit more if you want to. So I don't know. I think that'd be pretty interesting. One of the things I didn't do on here is originally I was thinking about making my moon kind of glow, you know, so instead of using a Q-tip, I would use like a cotton ball and go around that like that. But I think I'm going to leave it as is, because I think if it's, you know, if I didn't do that to the stars, I think I would make that moon just glow around the edge a little bit more. And then if you have it a little bit on this Joshua tree, it would look like right next to it, it would look like the light is kind of reflecting off of it. I'm tempted, you know, to add like a few little highlights of lighting on my Joshua trees in here, but I think it looks better. I think it would be too. I think it would stand out too much. I mean, I could do it in like a darker blue like this, but I like it just as silhouettes like that, and just keeping it simple. And we'll just, you know, have the textural elements kind of, you know, up in the sky like that. So, yeah. Let me see something right here. This is a little bit of a, like this tan peachish color. I'm just adding a little bit of warmth into this area like that. Blending it in a little bit like that. I don't know. I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't see that at all. All right. But anyways, so I guess that wasn't that fast of a card there. It's only like 50 minutes here, but I don't know. The backgrounds can come together really fast. If you're mass producing these backgrounds, that might be a good way to go, especially if you want to go with the same color schemes or something like that. And then you can really crank them out, probably. Just have all of your pads nice and juicy or whatever. Or do that thing, where, Laura's talking about, and just lay down some inks on something like this. And that would probably make it go like super fast, especially for like the first couple colors, where you want like a really decent slathering of it for the other colors to come and, kind of float on the top of there a little bit easier. But yeah, okay, so I don't see those like, those really harsh lines in here. Like even in this area, I guess if I look really close, they're right there. But, once you lay down all those other textures over the top of it, if you're getting that as you're developing your piece, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think it'll disappear by the time you get everything else laid down in there. Dollar stores have lots, what was that? Lots, no gum thingy. Speedball, but came with hard black roller and softer yellow one. Okay, that makes sense, yeah. We used to go through so many Brayers. When you have these like stickers on the top like this of these stamps, what you do is you lay them down, and you could like use your hand or something like that, but we used Brayers to brayer that sticker down really firmly onto the top of wood. So we went through so many Brayers in the wood mounted days. Some of them were like metal here. It was like metal on metal. And we went through so many times where this metal kind of, whatever do you call it? Whatever, that connector right there, that thing just like wore all the way through. I don't know how many thousands of stamps, but we went through a lot of those ones. There were the soft rubber ones too. Let's see. Power off all as well. Got it. Well, we're done now, Candy. John is the astronomer. Yeah, but you're out there though, Laura, doing all that stuff. I'm sure you know all of those, deep space figures and everything like that, I don't know. Do you know all the constellations that, when you look up at the night sky, do you know all of those? Or a huge amount of them? So you were on, checking in before bed. Hope all goes well, Bill. Glad you like it, Melanie. Thanks for jumping on here and checking it out. So I'll mat this off with something. I think this card would be really cool with a, like a quote stamp or something like that. I didn't leave a room. I'm not going to do it on this one right here, but you can have like a quote underneath it or something like that, or in the interior of the card. Let's leave it this. Now this one's not desert here, but I'm just kind of curious to see what this would look like in a kind of a reflection card, Desert pond right here. Of course, without the ice skaters though. But the flooded terrain. I don't know. Every time I format something on top of like a reflection card type of thing, it looks better to me. You know what I mean? I don't know. I did that on that other desert one too, and I really like that. I don't know, that looks pretty good. Like that. It looks just so dramatic. Hey, we're getting a lot of rain out there, so you might see something like that, right? This year. I don't know, that looks pretty interesting. When you look at it like this now, it seems like it's missing something after you saw that kind of reflection area down there, huh? I don't know. We'll see how that one goes. I'll see if I want to finish this off with anything else, and I don't know. I'll figure it out by then. I have a bunch of cards to format here, and I don't just decide if I want to add in some of those like little extra tweaks on here. This one got those extra tweaks just in terms of a little bit of a white pigmenting, but I don't know. That reflection might be too hard to pass up like that. So anyway, all right. You pass out on the zero gravity chair while he takes his astro photos. Well, that the constellation there is I don't know. I can't even think of something to make a joke. Cassiopeia. Like there, see that right there? Like that, like that. A very bad one. All right, folks. All right, we'll experiment a little bit more on future cards with this look right there. But I don't know, that worked out pretty good for this card right there, I think. I think that was just the right image to use in there. I really like this look right in here. And I think we could play around with it a little bit more too. Like I said, that little bit of white pigment ink on that star right there is really doing it for me, because it's right in the middle of this cloud like that, so you'd get that little bit of diffusion, you know, around that star in there. I don't know, that is pretty fun to do like that. We'll figure it out, you know. We need Mars in there. You know, sometimes you see that full moon or that moon and that little, you know, what is it, planet right next to it. Laura, you'd probably know that one, whatever I'm thinking of. All right, folks, thanks for jumping in. Good to see you all. And can't wait to format this. It might have to be a reflection card. It's hard to get away from those ones. Oh, this character would have been interesting in here too, that little lady writer at night. All right. Good night, everyone.